everyone. My name is Apurva. I will be presenting on the topic of operation research. Operation research is the today's socials and the business environment has been the complex high cost of the technology, materials, labors, competitive pressures, and so economics and social, as well as the political and viewpoints greatly increase the difficulties of the managing the decision makings. Knowledge and technical changes rapidly and are continuously giving the rise to the problems with the little or no precedency. Well-structured problems are at the operational levels of the organization to effectively addressing the arising problems and to provide leadership advancing the global ages decisions things cannot be afforded to make the decisions by simplifying the applying their personal experience, guesswork, and intuitions because the consequence or the wrong decisions can prove to be yes. Hence, we understand decision making, for example, entering to the wrong market, producing the wrong product, and providing inappropriate service data may cause consequence for the organization. As British European operation research has the Americans uses operation research. Another term used for this field management science and sometimes or MS. In the simple term, we use the industrial engineering and decision science. Definition of the OR is concerned with the scientific deciding best decision and operate the man-machine systems that usually require allocation of the scarce resource. Operation research is the art of winning the war without actually fighting with them. The application of the scientific method to study the operations of the large complex organizations or activities. It provides top-level administrations with a qualitative basic for decisions that will increase the effectiveness of these such organizations in carrying out their basic purpose. Apart from beginning the length, definition given by the Operation Research Society of the UK because of the emphasis it's placed on the complex problems and the large systems, leaving the reader approach sustainable only to the large organizations. Finding overall society of the American contain an important reference resource. The key word used in the above definition are scientific approach, scarce resource systems, and the models. Operation research are in the bad answer to the problem which other have the worst answer. Described as method and approach has a set of a technique in terms of the activities, a combinations of the many disciplines and extensions of the particular disciplines. Example, mathematics, engineering, economics, etc. A new disciplines of vacations, even religions. It is the process of the small, all these things. Operations research may be described as a scientific approach of the organizational systems. The history of operation research is generally agreed to the operation research comes into the existence as a discipline during the World War II. When these are circulated, need to be managed as scarce resource. However, a technique of the OR can be attacked by as in World War I. An effort to use an tactical game board for the finding a solution to minimizing shipping losses from submarines instead of the risking ships in actual conditions. The economic and social boom after the World War II in the continuous mechanisms, automations, and decentralizations of the operations and the divisions of the management functions. These industrializations can also result in complex managerial problems, and therefore the applications of the operations research decision making become the popular. Many operation researchers in their research after the war. Consequently, some important advancements were made in the various operation research techniques. The International Federatories of the Operational Research Society with the headquarters in the London. The other members of the IFORS were UK, US, France, and Western Germany. A year later, a program evaluating and reviewing the techniques and critical path method were developed as the effective tools for the scheduling and monitoring the immensely complex and expensive project of the times. Features of the operation research of the features are the additional features utilizing a planet approach following the scientific theme in order to represent the complex functional relationship has a mathematical models for the provide quantitative basics for a decision making and uncovering new problems for quantitative analysis. There are four types of the features. First is interdisciplinary approach. For solving the problems, interdisciplinary teamwork is essential. This because while attempting to solve a complex management problem, one person may not have the complete such as economic, social, politics, etc. This means we should not consider person to find the right solution for all managerial. Therefore, a team of the individuals in area, etc. One should be aware that each aspect of the problem can be handled by the particular specialist in the field. Scientific research is an application of techniques and the tools in the operations of the systems. So has to provide this in a with the scientific method, consistency of the observing and defining the problems, formulating and testing the hypothesis, analyzing the result of the test and the data, so obtaining is then the deciding whether the hypothesis is accepted or not. With the hypothesis accepted, the result should be implemented. An alternative hypothesis has to be formulated for decision and operation research team examine the relative importance of all the conflict and the multiple objectives. It also examines the validity of the claims of various departments of the organization from the perspective of its incompleted of the whole organization. Objective-oriented approach. An operation research approach seeks to obtain an optimal solution to problems under the analysis. For this, measuring the desirability or the effectiveness is defined based on the objective of the organization. A measure of the desirability of has defined in then has used to compare the alternatives course of the actions with respect to their possible outcomes. Has a system is defined as an arrangement of the components designed to achieve a particular objectives or the objectives according to the plans. The components may either be physical or conceptual or be both. They also share the unique relationship with each other with the overall objective of the systems. Operational research approach. The important of research is to use the scientific method and building of based on the three phases, namely as the judgmental, research, and actional. Judgment phases is the including the identifications of the real its problem selections of an appropriate objectives and the value related to the formulations of the appropriate models and the abstractions of the essential information so that the solution decision makers goals can be obtained. Applications of the formulation appropriate scales of the measurement, that is deciding the measurement of the effectiveness. This phase is largest and the longest among all the phases. However, even though the remaining two are not as long, they are also equally important as they provide the basic for the scientific method. These phases utilize observations and the data collection for the better understanding of the problem, formulation of the hypothesis and the models, observation, experiment to the test the hypothesis on the basis of the additional data, analysis of probability information, and the verifications of the hypothesis using the pre-establishment measures of the desirability. The result from the hypothesis and the journalizing of the results and considerations of the alternatives methods. Action phases. This phases is consistency of making the recommendations for implementing the decisions. This decision is implemented by the individual who is in the positions to implement the result. This individual must be aware of the environment in which be aware of the object of the assumptions behind problems and the required omissions of the model. Do not cannot represent every aspect of the reality because of innumerable and changing characteristics of the problem. Then can be the reason to this inputs in order to in office and understand the given systems for the purpose of improving its performance as well as the examine the behavior changes without disturbing the operation. For example, study the flow of material scaled diagram of a paper the factory position of the tool and workers can be constructed. It would be temporary temperature building. In other words, for a model to it representative of those that are investigated and impact on their decisions uh, can be easily studied by the concentrated on its of concentration of its based on the structure are there are two classifications based on the structure. One is physical model. Physical models provide a physical appearance of the real objective under study, either reducing in size or scaled up. Physical models are used only in designing problem because they are easy to observe, build, and describe. For example, in the aircraft industry, scales models of the proposed new aircraft are built and tested in the internals to record and the stress experienced by the airframe. Since this model cannot be manipulated and are not very useful for production problems, has such a portfolio selection, media selections, production scheduling, etc., cannot be analyzed with the help of the physical models. The iconic models reveal some of the physical properties and characteristics of systems they present. An iconic model is either an idealized from or is a scaled versions of the system. In such a model, represent the system as it is by the state or down. Example, iconic models are blueprints of the home, maps, globes, policies, drawings, airplanes, train, etc. Analog models. These models are represent a system by the set of the property of the original system, but does not resemble physical. For example, oil dipsticks in a car represent the amount of the oil in the oil tank. The organization chart represents the structure, authority, and responsibility, and the relationship with the box and arrows. And the map in the different colors represent the water, the desert, and the other geographical features. Graphs of the time series, stock market change, the frequency curves, etc., may be used to represent the quantitative relationship between any two properties and predict how a change in a one property affects the other. These models are less specific and concentrated but are easier to manipulate and more generally than iconic model. Symbolic model. This model is used symbols, letters, numbers, and the represent the variables and the relationship for the describing the properties of series. This model also uses the relationships that can be representing in a physical form. Symbolic model include the following as the written spoken written sentence, books, etc. Mathematical models involve the using of the mathematical symbols, letters, number, and mathematical operations to represent the relationship among the various variables systems for describing its properties or the behavior. Classification based on the function. Uh, this models based on of their abilities and are three types of the functions. One is descriptive models. Descriptive models are characterizing things as the major use of this model is to investigate outcome the consequence of the various alternatives course of the action. Since these models check the consequence only for a given condition or alternative, and then for all the conditions, there is no guarantee that an alternative selecting with the aid of the descriptive analysis is optional. These models are usually applied in decision situations where the optionality of the models are not applicable. They are also used when the final objective is to be these models indicate the consequence if this or then follow. They are related, independent, and cognitive try out. What if questions? In other words, of the alternatives for the problem. This model does not have any assumption as a part of the model of the evaluating the decision alternatives. Normatives, normatives are optimization models. These models provide the best or optimal solutions to the problem, subject to the certain limitations on the use of the resource. These models provide the recommended courses of the action. For example, in mathematical programming, models are formulated for the optimization given objective functions, subject to restriction on the resource in the context of the problems under the considerations and the non-negative of the variables. These models are also called prescribed models because they are prescribed what the decision maker out to do. Preparation based on the reference Static model represent a system at a particular point of the time and do not account for the changes over a time. For example, an inventory model can be developed and solved to determine an economic order quantity for the next period, assuming that the demand in the planning period will remain the same as that today. Dynamic order Dynamic model. In a dynamic model, time is considered as one of the variable, and it accommodated the impact of the change that takes place due to the that change in a time. First, of sequence of the interrelated for a period of the time are made to select the optional courses of the actions in order to achieve the given example of the dynamic model. Classification model, it is a parameter are also to be the known with the certainty. The is said to be it is associated with a particular course of the action that is specific. There is a uniquely determined output which represents the solution model under the condition. The result of the model assuming linear programming models are the example of deterministic model. Probabilistic models are in which at least one parameter or variable is are called as a probabilistic models. Since at least one decision variable is random for an independent variable, which is the functions of the dependent variables, it will also be random. This means consequence or consequence of in the independent variable not be predicted with the certainty. However, it is possible to the both variable by their probability distribution. The insurance the fire accidents example the pattern of the studied in the form of the probability distribution. Classification based on method of the solutions. Statistics this which through the phases are not optimal and do not facilitate the solutions of the problem when applied in consistent manners. Mathematical models. These models have a specific mathematical can be the mathematical techniques. Any optimization models which require optimizations or minimization objective is analytical models. Simulation models. These models are mathematical structure are also solved by applying mathematical techniques to arrive at a solution. Instead, model is assistance and experimentations on the mathematical structure of the real life problems in order to describe and evaluate its behavior, certain assumptions over a period of the time. Simulation models are more flexible than mathematical ones and can therefore be used to represent a complex systems that otherwise cannot be represented mathematically. These models general solution mathematical model. Stages of developing of operational research. Uh, this may have this may have the effective use of the operation techniques to follow a systematic sequence of this step. Of this step, this observational problems and environment. The first is the process of OR. Development is the problem environment observations. These steps include the different activities. They are conference, site visit, research, observations, etc. These activities provide sufficient information to the OR specialist to formulate the problems. Analyzing and the define the problem. This step is analyzing and defining the problem. In this step, in addition to the problem definition over studies, so define the output of these steps are clearly grasp the needs, solution, and its understanding. Developing represent some objects or situations. The models are basically mathematical models which describe the system's process in the form of the equations, formulas. These activities in the steps are variables, definitions, formulations, equations, etc. The a model is tested in the field under the different environment construct and modified in order to work. Sometimes the model is modified to satisfy the management with the result. Select an appropriate data input. A model work appropriate. There is the appropriate data in have hence selecting the appropriate inputs. Data is important steps in the overall development stage or the process. The activities in these steps include the internal, external data analysis, fact analysis, and the collection of the opinions, and the use of the computer data bank. The objective of these steps is to provide the sufficient data inputs to operate and test the model development, provide solutions, and it is to get the solutions with the help of the models and the input data. This solution is not implemented immediately. Instead, the solution is used to test the models and to find there is an limitation. Suppose if the solution is not reasonable or the behavior of the model is not model and modify at this stage. The output of this stage is to solutions that support the current organizational objectives. Implement the solutions at this stage. The solutions in the previous steps is implemented. The implementations of the solutions involves many behavior issues. Therefore, behavior implementations, the implementations authority has to resolve the issues. Early implemented solutions that in college work, it gains the supports from the management. Applications of the operation research. some of the industrial government business problems that can be analyzed by the OR approach have been arranged by the functionals area, likewise the finance and accounting. Finance and accounting have a dividend policy, investment and portfolio management, auditing, balance sheet and cash flow analysis, break-even analysis, capital budget, cost allocations, and the control and the financial planning, establishing the cost for the byproduct and developing the standard cost, claiming and complaining procedures, and the public accounting. Human resources, constructions, R&D, marketing of the product mix, marketing and experts planning, sales effort solution allocations and the assignments, predicting the customer's loyalty, launching a new product at the best possible time, advertising the media, planning selections and the effective packing, alternatives, purchasing and procurement and explorations, optimal buying and the reordering with or without price quantity discount, transportations planning, replacement policy and bidding policy, vendor analysis, product management, facilitating the planning, location and the size of the warehouse or the new plant, distribution centers and the retail outlets, logistics, layout and the engineering decisions, engineering design, transportations, planning and scheduling, distribution centers and retail outlets, manufacturing, aggregate production planning, assembling line in blending, purchasing and inventory control, allocating R&D budget most effectively, maintaining layoff and quality control, personal management, manpower planning, wages, salary administration, designing organizational structure more effectively, negotiations in the bargaining situations, skills and wages balancing, scheduling of the training programs to maximize the skills development and the retentions, maintenance and the project scheduling, maintenance policy and preventing maintenance of crew size and the scheduling, project scheduling and the allocation resources, government economic planning, natural resource, social planning and energy, urban and housing problems, military police, pollution control, technical and journal management, making quality control more effectively, project management and strategic planning, decision support systems, and MIS forecasting. OR in public health. The mission of the public health is to ensure the conditions in which people can be healthy. The missions is completed by the applications of the public health science in the public health service. Compositions of the OR and in team in OR team in public health administration, and epidemiologists, mathematicians, statisticals, and socials. Process of OR in the public health. Formulations of the problem, collections of the data, analysis of the testing the result. Driving the solutions of the models, choosing the optional solutions, and the forecasting the result, testing the result, recommendations, implementing. Example of the dots. Goal is to improve the diagnosis treatments by transplanting the result of the research into the policy practice. And the Bangalore demonstrated the efficiency and the feasibility of the case detecting by the SS microscope. TB Center Chennai it demonstrated the efficiency, safety of the treatment of the TB and the effectiveness treatment. Other example of the over promotions of the agent, they are delivered by the setting up the deliveries in PHC and SFCs, enhancing the coverage and the quality of the MCH service integrations of the health and ICD as a public-private partnership in the health care and delivery HBNC for the reductions of the nano neonatal mortality relationship between the and the OR specialist. The key responsibility the key responsibility of the manager is to decisions making. The role of the OR specialist is to help the manager make a better decisions. Job responsibilities recognizing the organizational symptoms that a problem exists manage, manager and the specialist decide whether what variables are involved. State the problems in a quantitative relationship among the variables. Or specialist investigating the method for solving the problem has stated above, determine the appropriate quantitative tools to be used. Or, OR specialist attempting the solution to the problems, find the various solutions, state assumptions, underlining these solutions, test the alternative solutions. Manager and OR specialist determine in which solution is the best, effective because of the practical constraint with the organizations, decide what the solution means for the organizations. Manager choose the solution to be used. Sell the decisions to operating manager, get their understandings and cooperations. Limitations of the OR. Distance between the OR specialist and the manager. Operational research job needed a mathematical or statistical who might not be aware of the business problem. Similarly, a manager is unable to understand the complex nature of the OR. Thus, there is a big gap between the two personnel magnitude of the calculations. The aim of the OR is to find out the optimal solutions, taking into the considerations all the factors. In this modern world, these factors are enormous and expressing in a quantitative models and establishing the relationship among these required volumes for solutions which can be handled by the machines, money and time cost. Basic data incorporating these changes into the operation research very expensive. However, a fairly good solution at present may be more desirable than a operation research. Solutions available in the future or the after some time non-quantifiable factors. When all the factors related to the problem can be quantifiable, only Operation research provide the solutions, otherwise not. Non-quantifiable factors are not incorporated in an OR model. Importantly, OR models do not take into the actions account emotional factors or the qualitative factors. Implementations. When once the decisions has been taken, it should be implemented. The implementations of the decision is a dedicated task. The task must be taken into the account the complexity of the human relations and the behaviors, and in some times only the psychological factors. Decision theory. Decision theory, the success or the failure that are individual or organizations depends to a large extent on the ability of the making the appropriate decisions. Making a decisions require an numerously of the feasible and viable alternatives. Course of the action or the strategy. The projections of the consequence associated with the different alternatives and a measure of the effectiveness or an objective to identify the best alternative to be used. The decision theory or the decision analysis provide an analytical and a systematic approach to depict the expected result of the situations when alternative managerial actions and outcomes are compared. Decision theory is a combination of the descriptive and prescriptive business modeling approach to classify the degree of the knowledge. The degree of the knowledge is usually divided into the four categories. Has has the ignorance, uncertainty, risk, certainty. Irrespective of this type of the models, there are certain essential characteristics. Types of decisions, strategic decisions concerned with the external environment of the organization. Administrative decisions concerned with the structuring and the organizational resource. Operating decisions with the day-to-day operations of the organization related to the decisions goals to be achieved and objective. State of the nature. These are nature's conditions. Also called as the consequence events or the scenario that are not under the control of the decisions making. A state of the nature can be the state of the economy. Example: inflations, weather conditions, political development, etc. The state of the nature are usually not determined by the action of an individual or an organization. These are the result of an act or a result of the main situation pushing in a various direction. The most relevant state of the nature may be identified through the some technical scenario analysis. That is, may be certain possible state of nature that may impact on the decisions. Others, on the other hand, could be the qualities in scenario analysis. Various knowledgeable sections of the people are interviewed, stakeholders, long time manager, etc., to determine most relevant state of nature that of decisions. Decisions alternative. This is there is a finite number of the decision alternative available to the uh, decision makers at each point in time is when a decision is made. The number and the type of research alternative may depend on the previous decisions made and what happens subsequently to those decisions. These alternatives are called course of the actions or the act or the strategies and are not only under the control also known as to the decision maker. This may be the describe if the numerical has the stocking 100 units of the particular items or the non-numericals has a conducting a market survey to the known and the likely the demand of the items. Linear programming. The concept on the development and the applications of the specific operations research techniques are used for determining the optimal choice among the several forces of the action, including the evolutions of the specific numerical values. We needed to construct a mathematical tools. The formulation of such model is then important because it represents then represent the essentials of the situations or the systems that are required component decisions analysis. The term formulation refers to the process of converting the verbal descriptions and the numerical data into mathematical express expressions, which represent the relationship among the relevant decisions variables of the factors, objective, and the restricting or the use of the resources such as the labor, material, etc. Uh, the application of the linear programming, it is important to understand the meaning of the word linear and programming. The word linear refers to the linear relationship among the variables in the models. Thus, a given change in the one variable will also causes a resulting in proportion change in other variables. For example, doubling the investment on certain project will also the double the rate of the return. The word programming refers to the mathematical modeling and solving of the problem that involves the economic allocation of the limited resource by choosing a particular course of the actions or the strategy or the strategies among the various strate- alternative strategies in order to achieve the desired objectives. Here are some examples. We will take the example of the linear programming. But before that, we will learn the different types of the linear programming. The important definitions of the solutions. There are solutions, feasible solutions, infeasible solutions, basic solutions. Solution the set of the value of the decisions variable that satisfy the constraint of any LP problem. Is set constraint to the solutions to the LP problem. Feasible solution, the set of the variables of the decision variable that satisfy that all the constants and non-negative functions of an LP problem simultaneously is that set to the constitute of the feasible solution to that of the LP problem. Infeasible solution that do not satisfy all the constraints and conditions of an LP problem Simulations is to set to basic solutions. Solution obtains by setting the n minus m variable equal to the zero and solutions for remaining m. A basic feasible solution of a feasible solution to LP problem is also a basic solution called as the basic feasible solution. That is all basic variables assuming the non-negative value. Basic feasible solutions are the two types. We generate a basic feasible solutions. That is having the one basic variable is the undegenerated a basic feasible solution if the value of all the m basic variables are non-zero and the positive. Optimistic basic feasible a basic feasible solution that optimists maximum or the minimum the objective of the function's value of the given LP problem. Content solutions a solution that cannot identify indefinitely increase or decrease value of the objective functions of the problems. It's called as unbounded solutions. As a convex set is a polygon and a biconvex view means that if any 2 points of the polygon are literally a straight line segment joining these 2 points lies completely within the polygon. Each corner, extreme or the vertex point in visible regions, space or the area fall at the intersections of the two constant equality. Extreme point of the convex set provide the basic feasible solution to the LP problem. The example is suppose an industry is manufacturing two types of products, PU, per kilo. The two products are 30 rupees, 30 and 40. This two require processing in the following table shows the hours per days and the time required on each machine to produce 1 kg. For first, we have to do the maximum and the subject. The first for the maximum, we will take the number has the 13 and the 14 as they are the manufacturing and other are and the rest all three are the subject for the subject. And for the second example, a company's own A and B different production capacity for high and medium low quality flowers. The concept has entirely constructed to supply flower to form the every month with the least from 12 and 24. For that, for minimizing profit, 2,000 and 1,500 has been minimizing, and the subject are we will take the rest all we will take as the subject. By using the graphical linear programming, we will solve this problem. First, we will take x1 and y1. First, we will doing the x1 as in 0 and putting the other values and getting the x1s. And then we will putting the y1 as in 0 and getting the x1 as values. By getting all the values, we will prepare the graph as per that, and at the one point as it shows in the figure that C is intersecting all the points. So we will draw the feasible solutions at an inner side of the triangle. For this example, there is in percentage, so we have to make multiply it by the 100. So we will get the solution has an proper number. Transportation. One important application of linear programming is in the area of the physical distribution transportations of the goods and services from the several supply centers to the several demand centers. It is easy to mathematical expressing a transportation problem in terms of the LP models, which can be solved by the simplex method involving large number of the variables and constraint. It takes a longer time to solve it. However, transition algorithm, namely stepping stones method and the Modi method, having a development for this purpose. The structure of the transportation problem involves the large number of the shipping routes from the several supply origins to the several demand destinations. The objective is to determine in the number of the units of an items that should be shipped from an origin to a destination in order to satisfy the required quantity of goods or services at each destination center. This should be done within the limited quantity of the goods or the services available at each center. And the minimum transportation cost or the time the transportation algorithm discussed in this chapter is applied in minimizing the total cost of the transporting the homogeneous commodity from the supply center to the demand center. It can also be applied to the maximizing of the sum total values of the utility. For example, financial resources are distributed in such a way that profitable returns is maximized. Northwest method. In Northwest method, we start with the leftmost or uh, we start with the cell at the upper left corner of the matrix and allocated the commodity equal to the minimum number of the rim values of the first row and the first column. If the allocation made in the first step is equal to the supply of the at of the first source. As we can see that there is a 15 and 100 in first columns capacity and the requirement. So whichever is low, we will take that on that column and put it and that rows or the column will be not used for the other allocations. By doing this, as we will get the final answer as by putting multiplying it with the allocated number and the allocated where we allocate the number. For the least cost method, selecting the cell with the lowest unit cost in the entire transportation tables and allocating as much as possible to these cells. then eliminating one line that the row or the column in which either the supply or the demand is exhausted. In this column, in this table, we can see that we have to choose the whichever is a lower in the table. We allocate first to that number and put and whichever is left will be used for the next allocations, and whichever is already taken for the allocation, that is that row or column can be not taken in consideration. Vogel approximation method is an penalty method and is referred more than the other two methods described. It's has in which is made on the basis of the opportunities cost that have been incurred if the allocation in certain cells within the minimum transportation. As we can and calculating the penalty for each rows by taking the difference between the two difference between the two smallest numbers in the rows and as well as the column, and we will put down as it shows in the 13 and 14, as it has the difference between the 17 and 4 is 13, and in the column there is a difference of the difference in 20 and 24 is a 4. So we will allocate the numbers as per that, and whichever in penalties rows and column we will see in both the see whichever is whichever is highest in the penalty, we will take that row or the column for the allocating the numbers. As it's shown is 15 is the highest number in the penalties, so we will take as 15's column, and we will see who is doing this. Stop making this. In 15, so we are seeing that in 15's column there is whichever is a smaller number in that column, we will put there are the allocating the number, as it shows that 22 is the smallest, so we will put 40 or 120. So 40 or 120, 40 is the smallest, so we will put 40 as in the 22 cells, and we will not use the 14's column for the next allocation. And for 120, 120 will be cancelled as 40 are already allocated, so we will minus the one allocation. And for that column we will not allocate, so we will cancel the row as well as the further allocation for that, or doing the same method till we get all the capacity and requirement are used for all the cells. For that we get all the allocations. For 20 it gets 55. So we will multiply the 20 to 40 plus 32 to 10 for all the cells, and for all we will get plus 50. Modi, Modi multiple basic Fourier solutions with m plus minus 1 occupied cells by calculating Q plus VI for the rows and the column. The initial solution uh, that who is doing this? Please stop this. where we get the lowest answer, lowest cost for the transportation has compared to the other three methods, where the northwest corner method get the highest cost for the transportations. We will first calculate the UI and VJ by allocating the UI one has a zero, as always they are zero, putting the zero, and others we will get by using the formula as the UI plus VJ is equal to Cij. Cij is the value that we will already get from the sales. That is the 300, 500 is the shows in the table, square table. So we will get the minus 6, 0, and we have to uh, put this square for the Modi method. We use the closed loop in the transportation table, where it has to be the square for the empty cell. We will use this formula as then delta is equal to cost minus u plus v, and get the solution as it shows that the minus 1 was there. So for that, it's not an optimal solution, so we have to calculate again as this table by putting these values in the table. By putting this value, we will again calculating the table and we will get the positive answer. After getting the positive cost, we will say that it is an optimal solutions. By getting optimal solutions, we will uh, calculating this table's value as 6 into 500 and plus and multiplying all the tables values and getting the 235 has. As you can see, other having the largest values as compared to the as Northwest getting the 4420 has compared to the Modi get the 2340 as the lowest value. As there is also the unbalanced transportation problem, where the problem is not have equal supply in units and the demand, where we have to equally put the supply is equal to the demand, as it shows that supply units is 330, but the demand is less. So we will add the plant cell 5, and adding by putting the 0 in the units, we will add the 50 has. So we will get the equal number, the 330. And again doing the same as we were doing the previous method. For the simplex, we will first putting the S1 and S2 as in extra to show the table. We first 0, and we will first do the CJ and basic. RR means the key row. RR is equal to B upon KC, and KC means current key value replacement ratios, where we converting the LP into standard form, adding slack variables and simplex tables. By using the S1 S2, we will generate this table. We will generate, and for CJ, we will put the maximizing values is 2 and 10. So we will put 2 and 10 here. And plus we are adding the other has the S1 or S2. So we will adding 0 and putting the X1 and X2 there, and plus we are adding the S1 and S2. So we are doing this here as well. For C, we will put the first, we always put a 0 for the first table, and for X, we will putting the S1 and S2, whichever we S1 or S2, whichever is there, or we are putting that in the X table, and in B, we are allocating the values that are equal to side. The 16 and 30 was in equal to side, right hand side. So we are putting this in B's values, and other on left hand side values will be put in this side. And ZJ, for calculating the ZJ, is ZJ we are calculating by multiplying the C into the X1. Sorry, calculating the C into the CJ, we will get the zeros for all these, and for delta Cj minus Zj, we will calculating Cj minus Zj. So we will get the 2, 10, and whichever in this table, whichever in this row and this column, we will see whichever is the higher. As per that, we will putting for the row, we will getting for whichever is higher, and for the column, whichever is the in whichever is the lower. So we will get this, and for this is the common has, and phi intersection we will in by using that phi, we will replacing this table's value by the formula has an old value minus current key column into the new value key row. By using it, we can these values that we are uh, lining these tables, getting this table a row and the column. So accepting that we other the non get lined uh, row, we will use it in for this formula, and getting the value as an 36, 30, 60 for this, and for that, for the uh, upper row, we will get the values by dividing the 5 with the other value has 16 by 5, 2 by 5. We will get these values. Assignment giving and facilities and numbers of the jobs and the effectiveness of the each facility to each of the jobs. Here the problem is assignment to each facility to the one and only one job, so that the measuring of the effectiveness is optimized. Here is the optimization means maximum or the minimizing the mainly management problems has measured in the assignment problem structure. For the minimization problem, we are looking how we will get to know this whether it is the minimization problem or the maximization problem. For the minimization problem, we check the balance or imbalance are there is converted probably by problem by adding the dummy row or the column. As well as we are checking whether it is minimization problem by checking the cost, expenses, work, hours, times, variables. Then it is a minimization problem. If the data having the income, sales, profit, then it is a maximization problem. Then we have to convert it to the minimization so by subtracting all the values of the matrix from the highest value to the highest values of the matrix. First problem. A a workshop contain 4 persons available for the work on the four jobs. As it shows that 4 jobs, and it shows the cost in the question. So it is a minimization problems, and it has the equal balanced problems. It has 4 persons and the 4 jobs. So it is balanced and the minimization problem. So for first we will calculate the table by the row minimizations. Whichever is the lower value in the row, we will minus that value from all the rows cells, and then we will minus the column values by reduce columns values by in there, it shows that there are 2 zeros, so we're reducing that by 2, so it shows that the same values as we. So we will so we will take rows calculating the jobs, as we will have to put 1 0 in each row or the column and the columns. For that we will getting the first there is only 1 0 in this row, so we will taking this 0, so we are cancelling this 0 in, so there it is no 0 in this row. So we have to have to calculate again for this table by calculating it again. So it shows that it is not optimal solution, so we have to do return calculating the 0 by whichever is the lowest value are not calculated yet. So there it shows that there is a 2 1, so we will taking this one as an reducing by subtracting this 1 from all the values, we will get that these tables. But we have to remember that where there is the intersections between the row and column line, we have to add this one in that number. So there will be the 1 here, and it will be 2 plus 1 will be the 3. So we can see that there is 3 and 1. For the other rest value, for the values and values that are already occupied, so we will put them as it is. So we are getting all the zeros from all the rows and the columns, as you can see. So we are taking this 0 for this. As you can see, there is only 1 0 in this column, so we are taking this one for this one. For there is 2 0, so we are taking this 0. So we are cancelling this one, so we will get this one has an number has, and we will cancel this one. So we are taking this, cancelling this one because we are cancelling this as well. So we will get the answer as 78. whichever box we are saying we are chosen as a zero. For the zero, we have to take the main value as it shows that A1 is 20. So we are taking that values. We are taking these values for addition. So we will get 78. For unbalanced problem, it shows that there is six workers and five jobs. So it is unbalanced problem. So we have to add the one more job, six number job. So it will get the balanced problem. For that, we have to add the zero in six columns. By adding this, we are doing the same method as the balanced problems. We will getting the 14. Thank you.